again, the Mayor Commission Workshop, and more recently to the Downtown Merchants Association again. We do propose going forward, if this resolution is approved, that all rates are effective immediately, with the other rates effective on Saturday and Sunday rates to be effective immediately because of demand that in the downtown currently, and all the rates will be effective, or garage rates or on-street rates will be effective, and the permit rates will be effective as of May 1st. We do expect to, or we do plan on rather, having a very extensive outreach campaign using our marketing assets for the whole month of May in order to inform the public of this change that's going to be effective on May the 1st. These are just some of the benefits of having a properly demand-based price parking program and parking structure within the city. We've gone over these before. One of the biggest advantages to it is to be able to create the turnover, to create the availability and the convenience for those who are driving into the downtown. We did take out the data from our current technology of our meters to determine that, and this was in the other slide previously, but as we try to abbreviate this presentation, we currently are experiencing over 30% of those parking downtown exceed the time that they pay for their meters. And one of the reasons for that, as we did our study, is that the rates aren't high enough, the citation rates aren't high enough to change their behavior. They figure they won't stay there. They say, if I get a ticket, it's no problem. It's no different than probably that much different than what I pay in the other city. So it contributes significantly to our problem of not having any turnover. Some of the benefits that some of the additional revenue that we will experience from this is elevator upgrade, which has been in progress and is now in its final stages. We do expect to finish our punch list. Basically what has happened with the burning garages, they lived so low, the elevators were not working efficiently enough. Some people who thought were getting feeling they were trapped in the elevators when they were just moving so slow they weren't really trapped. Right now that $300,000 upgrade has been completed, we just moved to the punch list and they're operational at the moment. We do plan on doing that in some of the other garages that I'm sure some of you are aware of, that we've experienced some of those issues even in our garage right here in City Hall. So we'll be doing those upgrades as well. We will be upgrading or enhancing our security. That's an ongoing thing that we'll be continuing to do as time goes by. Structural analysis are definitely a must for our operation as these buildings get older. We're all familiar with the building that collapsed in Miami just I believe a few months ago. We definitely don't want that to happen when we got the garages full of vehicles. So the cost of that is going up and we have to be able to keep up and maintain costs to make sure we keep our building structurally intact. One of the things that's going to change the behaviors most for persistent violators is the current citation fines or the upgrade of the citation fines. This is what we are looking at currently. As you can see, our expired meter fine in the West Palm Beach is significantly lower than our sister cities right here in the area. What we propose to do is to increase our fines from $27.50 to $37.50 for your initial offense. If you get a second offense within 6 months, that price doubles. And if you get a third one within a year, that price will double from there. We do believe that will significantly change some of the behaviors for those who are habitual offenders of our parking restrictions. Our current monthly permit rates are, as you see here on this slide. We're proposing a minor increase from $80 to $100 for a standard parking permit. Downtown residential is $42.80 to $80. Now that may seem like it's a significant increase, but it is on the surface. However, this $42.80 parking permit rate was established in the late 90s to encourage folks to come downtown to be a resident downtown. What's happened in the many years since that time, that $42.80 is being abused by those and some residents that have parking and store vehicles in our garage, which is what we do not want to do when we are promoting a transient parking environment. Parking lots, those are surface lots, We do a minor increase from 4250 and of course those that are supporting some of the assisted living areas, we simply going to raise a minor from 25 to 35. Are there any questions? This is my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Yes, sir.
And can you go back to the slide and see the numbers? So it will benefits, I think, of making these changes, because I don't want people to think we're only doing this to raise money. We're really trying to use, first of all, parking in our parking spaces is an asset. It's an asset of the city. It should be protected and valued, and I think we need to value that asset as the market requires. And but I like to also, what we're doing here is also trying to change behavior. And so, the current structure, we have people who are cruising, trying to find the next meter that causes, well, you see here, that causes backup of traffic. And so we're trying to encourage people, we're going to want people to come down, shop, eat, whatever, but then once you're finished with that, to move on. We've had situations, particularly with the free parking after 7, where employees of the different establishments downtown would just commonly park and just stay there and get the benefit of the turnover. So, again, there are benefits. We're not doing this to raise money. This is not a revenue generation process. We have been working on this for almost 2 years now, and it's time to Mr. President.
To respond?
Yeah, no, sure.
Yes, sir. What we're trying to do, again, we're not trying to be as penal as this may look on the surface. What we're trying to do, like with any other downtown, parking is an asset, like I said, in order to get people to come to visit your downtown and create that vibrant atmosphere in the downtown, like everyone's trying to do here in West Palm. We have to make it easy for them to get in and get out. And parking is one of the best assets to be able to do that. What we're doing by changing these rates, and we're trying to create what I like to call an atmosphere of compliance. And the more that we can get people to comply with parking restrictions by setting these procedures in motion to change those behaviors, the more I think we'll get a more vibrant downtown, people can get in and out very easily.
President Baduzzi.
Thank you, Mayor. And I know that we've spent some time talking about the benefits, but I think anytime you talk about benefits, you also have to talk about burdens and whether those benefits outweigh the burdens. And specifically, how high do rates and fines need to be to encourage turnover of those parking spaces, yet not be high enough to have a chilling effect on people from other areas even wanting to come to the city of West Palm Beach to have dinner or to frequent one of our businesses. I know that I hear from people outside of the city that one of the reasons they don't want to come downtown is because they'll say either they can't find parking, or they'll have to walk too far, or it's too expensive, or they'll get a parking ticket. And in a lot of the neighboring municipalities, the suburbs of West Palm Beach, don't have parking structure. They don't have parking rates and fees and fines like we do. Some do, some of the bigger cities do, but others have free on-street parking in front of restaurants and establishments, or have parking lots. So where's that balance? Where's that balance between encouraging turnover of parking spaces, yet not discouraging people to come to our downtown?
Well, I think the balance is achieved by properly pricing that demand. And I think what we presented here is a price that is not an overreach, if you will. I think it's a very reasonable price. And I think what happens is, and in this industry, it's always a belief that free parking is a detriment and people will never encourage to leave the space. And when you have a low rate like that, like we've experienced now, and especially with the reduction of the meters, that encouragement to leave that space is even less. So in order to do that and be fair to make sure that we don't overprice this, we had long discussions, long strategy meetings to come up with what we think is fair and what won't be too much of a burden on the average person who wants to come downtown and have dinner or to an event or just to come down just to visit some of the attractions that downtown West Palm Beach presents. And we've come to a very viable solution for all.
We've looked at at other municipalities in the process.
Mayor, I recognize one thing that I think it's important to remind us on the city administrator. One of the things that, and one of this, when we're getting feedback, as the mayor said, this has been going on for a couple of years. We got feedback previously, and there was a survey that was done, and the primary thing that people were looking at was convenience and basically location and convenience. So price was kind of down the list in terms of priorities. And as Ed said, when you look at it compared to what we're other cities in the county, Palm Beach, you can put Palm Beach up there, it's way more expensive. But we're really competitive compared to other cities.
Actually, what the commission, senior assistant, administrator, finance, when he was saying that during the traffic demand study that was established upon my arrival in 2017, as we did public outreach, and we did right over here in the boardroom across the hall, we have a matrix up so that the public could tell us what was their most concern. There was a 3-point matrix we made that said was convenience, price, and availability. The biggest thing that they were concerned about was convenience and availability. Price was the biggest concern. And I think by establishing the rates here that we've established here in this proposal, we have taken price into consideration to address your point of commission ability to make sure that we don't, overprice this to discourage people from coming to the town. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you for that response. And how about with regard to the free parking after 7 and free parking on Sundays? How has the situation changed where we think we need to discontinue that program?
The situation really hasn't changed. It has been a major problem for a long time with free parking after 7 and free parking on Sundays. What has happened in a lot of cases, because no one ever hardly leaves those parking spaces, it creates a lot of congestion on the street. Not to mention the fact that after 7, and the feedback that we've been getting from the public, is that most of the folks that were parking on the street were the people that were working, or the employees that were working in the businesses. And therefore, when employees are parking in that street parking area to keep them having to pay parking permits, there is no turnover for what maybe 4, 6, 8 hours at a time, depending on the turnover. So it hasn't changed. It's just that we're going down with this new proposal, we'll get a better control over that so that the public who comes down who wants to patron these businesses have an opportunity to take advantage of the availability of the few spaces for on-street parking.
Commissioner Lambert,
Thank you. Actually, I have a number of questions for us to start with. I appreciate the idea and the concept behind trying to have higher turnover of the spots for businesses. I know that some of the examples that we've heard is folks who might just want to pop into CVS quickly to pick up something. They want to have an on-street parking that's available. They just need to run into one of the stores or pick up restaurant takeout. So they're not planning on staying there for a while, so they'd like to be able to find a spot that they might be able to pay for a short amount of time. So I can appreciate that. I guess I know that we have been doing this public outreach for some time. The mayor mentioned that, coming up on 2 years. Things have changed in the last 2 years, and one of the areas that I just want to talk a little bit about is the residential parking and the parking for employees of the restaurants, because we're dealing with affordable housing situations, people's rent drastically increasing. I just want to make sure I understand when you said residential parking and that's going up, what I understand, we want to make sure that it's not just people who are utilizing this who are storing their vehicles. So I want to talk about that, as well as the employees. When our restaurants are having a hard time attracting employees, everyone's trying to hire more people. Are we doing everything that we can to make sure that we're not adding increased burden to those two situations?
Thank you for that question, Commissioner. I think, in fact, that we are doing all we can to accommodate those different people who need to utilize our facilities and our on-street parking spaces. Some of the things that we put into place with regard to the employees is, of course, first of all, this 50% discount on their permit. And as we were talking to merchants and getting some of the feedback, a lot of those employees who were favoring parking on the street did so with the reasoning that they don't wanna have to walk from their businesses to the garage after hours when they so much tips. The way we have approached that is that the contract that we have with PSC Security is established an escort line that they can call at any time during the time that they're down here, say I need an escort to the garage. And also the subcontractor for PSC that has the garage security as its focus will not only take you, the on-street will take you from your location to the garage, but once you get to the garage, the security inside the garage will escort you directly to your car. So we got those items in place to, I guess, enhance, or not enhance, but add to the attraction of buying a permit to park in the garage and still make the spaces available on the street for the public to come down and be able to have the convenience and availability of those parking on the street. Now, with regard to the parking, resident parking permits, as I said earlier, this discounted permit was established back in the late 90s to encourage residents down. I don't think we have a problem folks coming downtown to live in, you know. But like I said, in order for us to mitigate the abuse of that discounted rate, we strategized and figured it was time to increase that rate to a reasonable rate for monthly parking. We look at the total structure of it, the $80 is just a little over $2 a day for parking. So we still feel that that's a reasonable parking permit rate that will not discourage people from coming downtown, but also encourage them to come downtown with that reasonable rate to be able to have covered parking in an area where you're a resident that provides you parking.
Yes, so in that instance, are we providing parking for residents as a secondary to their downtown living facility? Are we providing them parking, or are we also doing that in addition to those who might not have parking at all?
We're doing that in addition to. There are a few residents downtown, especially in downtown South, retail buildings or the businesses that don't have any parking available to them, almost as far as the residents providing them parking. So our city garages are sometimes their only primary means to find a security covered parking area. There are some residents downtown who have 2 vehicle households that their resident doesn't allow them to have 2 vehicles to park. And there are some that do. For those that don't, we will offer them the ability to be able to come and get a permit in the city parking lot. But we have found out that some of those residents that do have the convenience and availability of offering 2 vehicles for the residents, some of those are the biggest abusers of coming to get this discounted rate and end up parking an antique car, if you will, or a more expensive car that they don't have room for in their residence, and they're end up in our garage to the point where we've had to annotate those vehicles with notices about moving the vehicle because of terms and conditions of having one of our permits, and so much dust on the car, you can't even make out to make it out of the car sometimes because the setbacks are around. So yes, we do understand the dynamics of the different residents and their parking availability, and try to accommodate all of them.
And certainly understand, we don't need to make exceptions for people who already have a regular parking at their facility. I guess, and I don't know if the answer to this is, my question would be, the folks who moved into an apartment complex that does not provide parking, I presume that they would have known that when they moved in there, was it understood that, oh, you could get this very low cost parking here in the city? Is that as just another option for them, or maybe what the cost of that? I guess I'm just trying to think of the people who might be paying the lowest rent in our city because it's where they can afford to live, to be able to live downtown. It comes out to be almost $500 increase for them, so they're already seeing what I'm hearing is, anywhere from $500 to $1,000 increase on rent, and then we're now attaching another $500 increase on parking.
I'm not sure what the answer to the question is, to be honest with you. I do know that our parking rates are designed not to be overly burdened in response to Commissioner Peduzzi. But at the same time, you know, to offer the ability to be able to accommodate everyone's coming to the downtown. To include those transit parkers who are only here for a couple of hours. So,
I guess maybe the answer to that would be, in your public outreach, was there anything that different groups that you presented to brought up as an issue?
I think they just talked about the price of the current, of the discounted price. As far as the rents going up and increasing that happened subsequent to our meetings, no, I haven't heard anything about that, to be honest with you. And I hadn't given you time to really address that issue. It did not seem to be a problem at the time we were doing the outreach.
Understood, so.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Davis, for the presentation. You know, one of the challenges that I'm here today is that our downtown is kind of an ecosystem, right?
I'm sorry.
Our downtown is more of an ecosystem, so we have a lot of different stakeholders we have to face here. We have residents, we have visitors, we have workers. And so I think the key here is options, right? So I think my first question will be a simple one. And on one of the slides you had notated that you're looking at credit card only options. Is that just for the Sunday rate or?
Yes, we're looking at that to expedite information on the summer, the credit card options. I realize that everybody doesn't have credit card, but in this day and age, it seems like most people do versus those who don't. So in order to strategize how to accommodate the majority of the users, we came up with that option as a means. It gets crowded and it's come down the edge of a lot of frustration sometimes. For those people who are finding difficulties in the machines when they're paying for parking or just the normal delay in the processing of that exit process, which is taking the machine and have to pay for that. So if we establish, but through the use of technology, that small delay going in through the app, through the credit card, through the license plate recognition, you know that at the end of the day, that process to get out will be much more expeditious for those who come through the run.
Sure, I can understand wanting to be expeditious. I guess I would still ask that there be some option that there still are a number of people that do not have credit card access. So I think if we're looking at servicing all of our residents, we need to make sure in some way, shape, or form there is still a cash option. So that one's fairly simple. On the second question that I had, looking at the options that we have to kind of look at the needs of different parties. Particularly when we look at workers, to Commissioner Langland's point, we have restaurants and hospitality industries that are having a particularly hard time hiring restaurant employees. Those tips probably shows my age how long ago I was a waitress. You know, it's not much more than that today, and so to add on top of that, several $100 a month in parking would be detrimental. Have we thought of different options to perhaps instead incentivize our workers or incentivize our businesses so that if they have employees that can have an alternate mode of transportation, that they can provide incentives to those employees rather than looking at, I understand that Mr. Conrad joined us here to the discounts and validation, which I can appreciate too. But looking at other ways to incentivize businesses to offer rewards for alternate modes of transportation to try to free up some of that space.
Commissioner Armando, City Administrator. So one of the things we are working on in conjunction with this is, you know, the parking rates are one part of the larger strategy. As an example, we talked about movement and flow of traffic in downtown. The other thing we're implementing or getting ready to implement is more structured loading zones, one way to move traffic. In terms of bringing in alternative sources, so we will be coming to you in the next month and a half with an ordinance change to the parking ordinance on the ordinance itself, not just the rates. And that's something that's been in the works also for several years. And part of that will include looking at, with the revenues that are generated from parking, if there are excess revenues, once everything has been paid off, including capital improvement needs, reserves, and so forth, some of those funds could be used to promote more mobility options into the city, and that reduce parking needs. So that's one thing that's coming. The other thing is we've also been looking at a new traffic engineer at our trolley routes, and in ways we can reroute that, and other incentives that we can provide. The EPA is providing an incentive right now through the electric vehicles, I don't know the name of it right now, the electric vehicles. So all those things are being looked at conjunction with this is just one piece of the puzzle. So short answer is yes, we are looking at ways to incentivize employers and other visitors to use alternative means to get into downtown, so reduce the need for parking.
Follow
I have a separate question if you'd like to bring up that or. Thank you. So I think some of the challenges that we face with fees such as this is time. And so you have to make the choice, either make a big jump in larger amounts of times or just gradually increase as you go up. So I know we've been working on this particular iteration for 2 years. When was the last time we changed parking rates in the city?
That's when we had parking changes in 2013.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? We do have a couple of cards. We have three, first of all, Joseph Russo, Rafael Clemente, and Harriet Janice. I don't think she's here. I do not wish to speak, but please read my comment as follows. Allow free parking as bad, no excuses. Ms. Rosa.
Hello, Mayor, Commissioners. Joseph Russo, with that 591 Burger Street. I would love to thank the city staff and the strategic department for putting a lot of hard work into tracking this issue. I think it's 2.5 years. Don't worry, I won't hold the parking ticket on my birthday answer. It's understandable. So this is something that I think it was pre-COVID 2.5 years ago that this process started. At the time, there was a lot of big questions. A lot of this has been solved, and I think it's Commissioner Lambert, but a lot has changed in our society since then. As somebody who's been in and out of downtown about 8 or 9 years now, this has been something really important to me because I was a commuter, a resident, and I have a lot of friends, family, colleagues that come down here who may or may not have the same needs. So parking over time consistently does add up. A couple things that really stood out to me were, one, of course, the housing costs, the housing prices that we have from an affordability standpoint is very big, and it's not something we always kind of factor into the pricing here. It's something to be considered for sure. But really, where I come down with this, is I found out about this today at 3:21 p.m. that this was actually brought up here today, and I've been keeping track of this issue for some time. And I believe it was added to the agenda on Thursday. And I would love to be able to provide a full, thorough thought of all of my matters on this issue. But, more importantly, we don't have Commissioner Fox here with us today, too. And understandably so. But there are some things on this that I think because of the changing nature of where we've come in the city over the last couple months, even in the last 3 months, noting some of the notice or lack thereof, I think it would be a good opportunity for us to treat this perhaps as a first reading. Myself and others who did not know this was coming up today, 4 or 5 ago, the opportunity to look at this and say, is there anything else on everything else? Is there any other comment or concern that we have? Because there are certainly some things on that, but all in all, I think that the city and the staff put together a mostly good proposal. I think that they put a lot of work into this and should be honored for that. I think there's a few things we can improve on. We could add a little bit here, take it a little bit there. But mostly, I think this is something that we can work towards in the city. Like anything else, the city commission and we are consider taking this perhaps until all Commissioner Fox can join us and we can have a more thorough review about this. But I really appreciate the time we have this happening to this question. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clemente.
Good evening, Mayor. Commissioner Jonathan Clemente, Executive Director of the Downtown Authority. This presentation, a version of this presentation did come before the DDA twice. First, I believe in 2019, with the SDA and Davis, and then again in September 2021. Robust discussion, and all the comments and concerns that were raised by the DDA were ultimately incorporated into this proposed plan. We have a growing city. Our downtown is not an adolescent get to be a big, grown-up adult downtown. And we are faced with a challenge. Parking is a double-edged sword. It is a commodity, as has been said tonight, and it needs to be managed in a way that lets it provide the greatest amount of value to our place. I think that staff, having been involved in this, just like Mr. Russo said from its inception, I think staff has been surgical in their application changes and pricing structure. Thinking about employees, thinking about residents, and these were things that were brought up by the board that I work for, particularly residential parking, overnight parking, staff parking for employees of the downtown business community. And I don't think that there is ever going to be an absolutely perfect mix of pricing. But what I think has been presented by Mr. Davis tonight is a very fair proposal, and one that has done, that does a very good job of considering all of the diverse challenges that our parking supply faces. Really, at the end of the day, as Armando Fana said, is we have a holistic of the equation. And we can't just continue to store more cars. We have to think about how we move people, Mayor, as you have said, and pricing our current system in a way that allows us to look at these other options effectively is one way that we're going to get there. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is anything in the portal? Okay, this one requires Commissioner.
Thank you. Change is never easy, and I know that we face that a lot of times when we're changing things in the city. I guess something that helps ease that pain of change is communication. So I'm curious if you could share with us, in addition to the communication that, maybe if you can go back to that slide, that's sort of the communication that's taking place on kind of putting this plan together. Maybe you can start there and tell us, Mr. Clemente touched on that feedback was given and was baked into this plan, and you could expand on it a little bit, and then the next phase of communication is if this is to pass, what is the plan for communicating this to the public?
Thank you.
Are you doing a comment on this item?
No.
It's a general comment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Public
So
comment.
it comes at the end of the meeting?
Okay.
All right, so, I take the cards.
Okay. This is for my friend up there. Can I bring it to him?
Sure.
Okay.
You can bring it to him. He has to give it to me to take it up. Though.
Okay, you're gonna be out here?
I'll be right in here.
Okay.
Yeah, let me know.
Thank you so much, honey. I'm gonna borrow the
You
pencil.
need an address and phone number. Yeah, you need to have.
I checked in the policies. That's not required.
Well, it's a common card, so they usually want to know where you're from.
I live in West Palm Beach. I don't
Okay,
feel
you can just go
comfortable
West Palm Beach.
diverging that.
Okay.
West Palm Beach, Florida. Can I borrow this pencil? for him?
Sure.
Okay, thank you so much, honey. Yes, I have him on my phone.
Because here says, I do not wish to speak, but please read the comments as follows.
Okay, no, I have him on my phone, yeah.
Oh, so you're gonna speak?
Yes.
So you don't put that.
Okay.
Because they'll read that and think
Thank you. Thanks for correcting my mishaps over here. I'm not running on all 4 cylinders. All right. So, is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I ran into elected office, I think I went on record saying, I get elected, I will abolish the department because you get so many tickets and you hear the Senate and you get frustrated. And it wasn't until I said how I was up here listening to my colleagues and understood why we have these things in place, why we have parking breaks and fines. It's to not discourage necessarily, but to encourage people because there are spots available. And I think that while this resolution is not perfect, I don't think we necessarily should throw out that good for the not so perfect. So I think I can support this, but I think we need to make sure that the communication is there, as my colleagues have suggested.
Again, our communication strategy is for the entire month of April, along with the remaining 2 weeks in March, to reach out to the public. Our communications firm have been well prepared in anticipation of this, and I think we're going to do a pretty good job. Not a pretty good job, we're going to do an excellent job in making sure that this information is communicated to the public.
Thank you, Mayor, and Mr. Davis and Mayor Administration. I guess my question would be, as we implement this new plan, we spent 2 years studying, we're going to potentially move forward. As we move forward, if our data shows us that we have one group or another that's more disparately impacted, is there room to adjust this plan going forward? So what would be the plan for changing? We put this into effect, we wait for a period of time, we collect information, and we determine that, restaurants downtown are going to get workers, or it's a significant challenge to affordable home ownership. What would be the process? Is there a process to be able to change? Would it come back in the same fashion to this body?
Process is what we have now. I mean, we could basically have
Well, to answer that question, the ordinance as it stands, and even the improvements in the ordinance that we suggested, gives the parking system administrator the ability to adjust the rates 25% in either direction, should there be a strategic need for a change to what's implemented currently in the future. But I'm not sure if that's the total answer, but it will give us some flexibility to adjust those rates depending on the feedback that we get.
any other questions? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I would move resolution number 88-22.
Very good. So we move to a second.
Second.
We move to second. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. And the opposition motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And on to the public hearing phase of the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Davis and Mr. Farmer. Item 1, public hearing and second reading of resolution 49-22, amending chapter 34 crime to create a set of master areas to provide regulation governing the city's natural. Mr. Farmer.
Commissioner Armando, Assistant City Administrator, there are no changes in the first reading.
Very good, thank you. Any questions, commissioners? Comments? Okay. Yes, President Booth.
Thank you, Mayor. Not to reiterate what I said at the last meeting on this subject, but I do want to thank our officers that protect our natural areas. They do a lot of good work out there that most of us don't see because our natural areas are so natural. They're so big. Grassy Waters being almost 24 square miles. I know they're out there on a regular basis, out on airboats and four-wheelers, and, you know, it's difficult sometimes to protect those areas without the benefit of ordinances. You have state laws you can enforce, but without ordinances, some of these things just don't fall under them, and they are potentially hazardous to grassy waters and or other natural areas. And once again, though, I want to, suggest that since our officers are charged with protecting all the way out to the L8 canal, all the way out the M canal from grassy waters out west, that we need to look, to the county and see if they'll work with us on ordinances, or if they have ordinances in place that deal with natural areas, so that we can do something, so we can enforce other things other than state laws, because state laws there's probably not comprehensive enough of coverage of state law when it comes to protecting those natural areas. I know that our officers who work out there have suggested the easiest and the best way of doing it would be to incorporate those areas into the city, but I'm not so sure it's going to be that easy to incorporate some 8 miles of a finger that heads all the way out to west of Seminole Pratt Union Road. But I think that we need to consider all of our options for how we can best protect our waterway that we own. And it's great, I think it's great that they came up with a memorandum of understanding with regard to protecting that area with the sheriff's office, and that was fantastic, thinking outside of the box as to how we can go out there and actually have law enforcement ability and the best way to protect that waterway. But let's just, think if there's any other way, if we can still contact the county and work with them, or consider if annexation is a possibility. Thank you.
We'll do so. We think, as you said, we did clarify we have that MOU with the sheriff's department, so that's definitely helpful. We'll continue to look at ways that we can make sure that our waterways and our natural resources are protected by law.
Ms. Johnson, would you speak to that?
Yes. At the first reading of this ordinance, President Perdue brought that up, and the mayor directed me to follow up with the county administrator on their ordinance. I have not yet done that, in that Deputy City Attorney Nancy Urchuk and I have been communicating about our ordinance and the MOU. She is pairing our ordinance with an ordinance that she found on the books that the county has to identify where there are gaps. So based on her review and determination, I will then craft that correspondence to the county administrator and will inform the mayor and the board. So it's in the works.
Yes, President Lucy.
Just one more follow-up. I know that there was a question by our officers as to whether, if there was a county ordinance on point, whether our officers would be empowered to enforce a county ordinance under that memorandum of understanding for law enforcement patrol out the M Canal up to the LA.
Yes, and Ms. Urchek is going to provide guidance in what we need to put in the correspondence to the county.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions, comments on this item? Any cards? Anything in the floor? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move approval of ordinance number 4992-22.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Call the question. All those in favor say aye.
It's an ordinance.
It's an ordinance. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, can you read the ordinance, please?
Ordinance number 4992-22. And also, the City Commission of the City of West Palm Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 34, Environment, to create Article 7, Natural Areas, to provide regulations governing conduct in the city's natural areas, including criteria water preserve, water catchment area, providing confidence clause and severability clause, a codification clause, and effective date and public purposes.
Very good. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, Commissioners, we're now going to quasi-judicial, so I'll need you to make your disclosures, and we'll start with. Yes, there is right there. Okay, item 9.2, thank you. Public hearing and first reading of ordinance number 4973-21 regarding public safety radio coverage, establishing standardized in-building radio signal strength levels in compliance with nationally accepted fire codes. Reliable, consistent, and unobstructed radio signal transmission and reception within buildings located in the city is necessary to provide public safety services.
Thank you for your time today. Kevin Clark from the Police Department. Also present on this matter is Chief Information Officer Paul Jones and Telecommunications Superintendent Howard from the IT Department.
You can speak a little bit closer to the mic, sir.
Yes, sir. This ordinance, although it might be new to our city, is nothing new for the county, the state, or the nation, nationwide. This ordinance, in some variation or form, is an industry standard and has been for several years. The city of West Palm Beach maintains and operates an L3 Harris 800 MHz multi-site simulcast P25 radio system. It supports the police and public works and utilities. The city's fire and EMS services utilizes the Palm Beach County P25 radio system, which operates in a similar manner on a 700 MHz system most of the time, as the West Palm Beach PD system. This ordinance establishes guidelines and standards for reliable public safety radio transmission and reception. What does this ordinance do? The proposed ordinance establishes minimum standards for reliable emergency services, two-way communications for police and fire within certain buildings and structures. Most of this ordinance will affect the larger, more modern buildings, mainly the ones that have been constructed with concrete, steel, and specifically has more modern impact hurricane rated radios. The ordinance establishes requirements for new and existing buildings to be equipped with an emergency responder radio coverage system if necessary. What is the legal framework for this ordinance? This ordinance framework is founded on standardized national model codes from the International Fire Code, National Fire Protection Agency, and Florida Fire Prevention Code. Why is this ordinance necessary? Modern building design and construction techniques, especially those required to satisfy requirements for hurricane-rated building code compliance, make it difficult or impossible for the city to provide a reliable two-way radio coverage for first responders inside certain buildings. How does this ordinance work? The ordinance mandates that certain buildings and structures have a minimum signal strength in 95% of each floor of the building with a 95% reliability factor. The ordinance establishes the permitting, testing, and verification process for compliance, which would include an annual inspection or verification of the system and a 5-year compliance inspection. What if a building or structure fails testing? Buildings and structures which do not meet minimum standards shall be equipped with an in-building radio coverage enhancement system to meet the established standards comprised of FCC approved and certified equipment. And this is just a basic example of what it is that we're trying to defeat here. So basically you have a building that has no coverage or potentially has coverage. So you might ask yourself, what is an in-building radio coverage enhancement system? Typically the system is comprised of a single or multiple bidirectional amplifiers or BDAs. You might have heard about this. They're also common with cell phone service. You might find in certain buildings. And indoor antennas collectively known as distributed antenna systems. The system ensures that radio signals can penetrate all areas of the building, including areas that are difficult for radio frequencies to penetrate, such as stairwells, elevators, basements, and thick water shield areas. This is an example of, ideally, or a very simplistic example of how this radio system and the amplification system would work. Basically, it's just for the radio signal to transmit in, and for the first responder inside, more than likely with a handheld radio, to be able to transmit out. This is an example of how it would work in total. You'll have one part with the city's tower, sending the signal from the first responder and being able to transmit in and out